G'day, guys. Welcome back to Steelers Nation Australia. We have a special episode today. We actually have my good mate, Gene, and my other good mate, Kenny Pickett. But not really the real Kenny Pickett we're going to talk about today, which is KP8. But this whole episode, I want to find out more about Kenny Pickett and also answer the question is, did the NFL forget about Kenny Pickett? But we have here my good mate, Gene. Welcome, Gene, to the show. What's going on, mate?
Hey, nothing much. Just hanging out with you guys.
Just chilling? All right, because today we're talking about Kenny Pickett, and we have Kenny Pickett in the building. How are you, Kenny? How are you, KP8? What's going on, mate?
Doing lovely, just throwing TDs, throwing dimes. You know how it is.
Nah, this is our good mate, of course. Our good mate. Look, don't cancel me, internet, or ban me, or block me, or whatever. It's our good
Cancel
mate, Yuly.
him.
Yeah, Yuly from the show, and Gene. But we were talking off air before. And I was like, we got to make this content, man. We got to get this out there because I want to learn more about Kenny Pickett, right? And I'm going to ask this the first question is to you, Kenny Pickett down the bottom. Did the NFL forget about Kenny Pickett? Honestly.
Yes, initially. However, I would say over the past 3 weeks, I've been pleasantly surprised. Everyone is hyping him up in like the overall general NFL media. Like everyone is high on him right now. If you have asked me that 2 months ago, I would have been like, pissed off, been salty. Everyone's like, not hype on Kenny. Everyone's like denying him, just looking at the box score. But over the past 3 weeks, everyone is actually really high on Kenny Pickett, and I think they're finally realizing, like, just look at the film. Don't look at the box score. Look at his college tape in general. Look how he had like his work ethic, how he goes about things, and everyone's starting to realize Kenny Pickett is a guy.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because, to me, all the new guys, the Strouds, the Anthony Richardsons, those blokes, the Bryce Youngs, everyone's talking about them being in the NFL, but it's like Kenny Pickett's still a second-year guy. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think that, like, we talked about, off air, we talked about that Kenny Pickett was thrown into the situation of the Jets game and stuff like that. But, Gene, what are your, like, overall thoughts about Kenny Pickett, going into the year 2 and now having the full control of the offense? What do you think?
Well, it's kind of my thought process again. It goes back to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, he was the greatest in college. You know what I mean? Played for one of the greatest teams, greatest in college. Comes in his first year, starts, gets skunked. Okay. Kenny Pickett came in first year after a championship for Pitt. Doesn't start. Gets thrown in because Yuly brought that up before, or KP2, if you want to call him that.
I'm KP8. Let's stick to the facts here.
And just got thrown into like a shell, got thrown into a fireball. And, obviously you're going to fail. 2 concussions. He was out for a game, right? I think out for maybe 2 games. Got the first concussion.
Yeah, there was the first one. Then the half concussion he had or something happened. It was weird. It was something happened weird. Yeah. So,
but then ends up building a winning season out of a team that he never started with in the post or preseason and so on and so forth.
And now he has the chance now that he's going into his season with his team, right? And I want to bring it back to. Yeah, all the reps, all the Allen Robbins talking about him. And you do make a good point there, Yuly or KP8 or KP2 down the bottom, right?
KP8.
There wasn't many people talking about Kenny Pickett, right? Or KP8. And now you're right. I think there's a few like Colin Cowherd, they're jumping back on the train a little bit.
Yeah, everyone's jumping back on the train now.
Yeah, and is that because maybe the roster they've acquired or Omar Khan's acquired the people around him?
I don't think it's anything the Steelers done because even last year when we brought in new offensive line, Colin Cowherd was still like, the Steelers, they don't do anything with our offensive line. We brought in 2 new people. That's 40% of the offensive line as free agents alone. I think it's just we're in June, July, football news is so slow. So if you're like a football addict, you're probably going back and watching like everyone go around, especially if you have to cover every team, because we mainly focus on the Steelers, but for like those people, they're probably bored and they cover every team. So they probably are looking through all the different games and they're seeing in the Kenny Pickett Steeler games, this guy looks good because his stats look terrible. They are not good, but if you're a person who, so I would like, if I covered every team and I was like, a Rams fan based in Los Angeles, I'm covering every team. I'm just going to assume Kenny Pickett looks god awful until I get around to viewing them. I don't have time all day to be viewing every single game, so I'm not going to be viewing the Steelers. But now that's June, July, I have time to I'm bored, I'm craving football, I need something. I also want to improve my career and have better takes. So I will go back, I will review the previous season. Maybe I'll even review things I already reviewed just to see how my takes hold up on what I was thinking then versus now. And then also I'll view games that I didn't view previously because I just didn't have the time. And I'll see, hey, this guy's looking pretty good, even though his stats aren't the best.
Yeah, he's definitely got a higher football IQ than what I saw in the first. Then, like what I've been seeing or hearing about, I think his football IQ is very high.
And let's expand on that, Kenny Pickett down the bottom. How high is your football IQ?
99 overall Madden, probably 105, probably a good day. I think they have to redesign the game for me. I got a mean arm. Everyone likes to talk about my arm turn power. It's a mean arm once it gets warmed up.
Hold up. Did you just say redesign the game for you?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to add a 105 overall just for me. Like, you can still keep, like, a TJ at, like, a 99, a Minka at 99, but you're going to need a 105 for me because I'm just that good. All
right. Oh, okay. Let's go further into that because I know we talked off air. We had a lot of gems off air, but this is even better. This has made still Oz. Kenny Pickett, right? What is the best quality about him, do you think, Kenny Pickett, down the bottom? You think about his traits in the NFL. What's his best quality?
Work ethic. Studying. That's what everyone talks about with him. They talk about how all he does is studying. I think if you're a quarterback, the number one thing you should be doing is studying. I don't care if you become anorexic because all you're doing is studying, not eating. Because if you can get rid of that ball fast enough because you studied so well, it does not matter.
I guess you get wins, right? You get wins, and of course, mental health is a priority here on this channel. So if you do struggle, we will hopefully get some help. Thank you for pointing that out.
You're done. Good luck.
All right, Gene. Gene, what are your expectations of KP8 this year? What do you want to see him do in this league to be like, okay, he is the guy?
So I think he already is the guy, just from I don't know how much Yuly reads in the Pittsburgh news and stuff.
I'm the dog. I'm the dog. Don't make me flex on you.
Is that from the bounty hunter? It's from the bounty hunter. I'm the dog, the big bad dog.
But the aftermath of it, where you hear like the real Pittsburgh news reporters, the ones that are gritty and grimy, and they're like, everyone loves KP. No one will step him down. He's our quarterback. That's who's the leader. He talks to the defense. He talks to the offense. He talks to everyone on that field. He's like, what's going on? I'm
hitting up all their DMs.
What's that?
I said I'm hitting up all their DMs. I'm sliding to everyone.
Twitter, what's up?
All right, okay. Back to KP, mate. KP. So we talked about off air again too, right? Most of it was off air. Now it's on air. But okay, what's the idea? You told me. What's the idea around Kenny Pickett stayed back a year in college? What happened there, Kenny Pickett?
So basically, he wasn't sure where he was going to go in the draft, and he wanted an idea. So he hit up Peyton Manning. He asked him, "Hey, where do you think I'll fall in the draft?" Peyton Manning's like 6th round. It's up to you whether you want to try to improve that or declare now. Because keep in mind, if you declare as a 6th round, you're guaranteed, like $1 million. If you go back another year, there's a good chance because you're on that cusp of just falling out of the draft, getting no money, nothing at all. So he decided though that he wanted to go back, study as hard as he can, play it all into football, and see what he could come up with, and that's where he got Pitt in ACC championship.
Okay, and even going back to that too, right? Because I looked through, I don't follow college football, but he got 42 touchdowns?
42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a 6-to-1 ratio.
Right. And how come, and why is no one really talking about that? Even last year in Kenny's rookie year, it seems like no one cares about that. That seems pretty high, right?
People value age way too much in the NFL because they want to think that the guy they're going to grab is going to be a hit. They don't care if he's 21 or 24. They think if I grab this guy, he'll be my star. And if he's 21, I get him for 19 years. If he's 24, I get him for 16 years. In grand scheme of things, that really doesn't matter. And it also has nothing to do with it. It really matters on how your quarterback plays, how his offensive line is protecting him over the years to keep hits down. So it really doesn't matter. And then also another thing, a really big thing was, so Joe Burrow is actually the most common quarterback Kenny gets compared to, because Joe Burrow had mediocre years and then he shot up in his final year. I think the big difference in why Kenny Pickett wasn't seen as such a great prospect as Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow played in a much bigger college program. And then also Joe Burrow, he did do it in his fourth year, while Kenny was given a COVID year. So he had a fifth rare year. And I think so many people just were like, there's no point in counting that year, even though it was still given to him, because they're like, it doesn't matter what he does in the COVID year. Any other college quarterback in the draft won't have gotten that year, which is true. But to not place stock in development and the development of a quarterback brain, which is the most important thing, I think is rather dumb.
Right. What
I'm
do you
gonna,
think of that, Gene?
Well, I was going to follow up on that. He's totally right, because Pitt is not considered a big school, even though it's Pittsburgh. It's not a Bama. It's not an LSU. You know what I mean? It's not a Georgia.
Yeah.
It's a small school. So is Penn State's considerably. It's a big school, but it's kind of a small school in the scheme of things. Ever since Paterno got his stuff done, Penn State is not a big school anymore, even though that bigger stadium fits 98.6 or something like that.
It is something ridiculous, yeah. More than Heinz Field.
Yeah. 98,000 fans at Penn State. But it's a small school now. But Bama, like those guys, Pickens played for Pitt. Pitt plays in 68,000.
Sorry, you said Pickens. Pickett played for Pitt. Pickens played for Georgia.
Pickens to Pitt. I don't care.
Yeah, it's all good.
Right, but okay.
It gets complicated when we have two players that have a very similar names that play for very different schools.
But funny how we got Pickett to Pickens in this like the same, near the same.
That was a robbery. Pickens was way too good to be going where he went.
Yes, I agree.
Was he like the 11th receiver taking? Think about that. You had teams take 10 other players, as in like 1/3 of all teams drafting before you. Or actually, it was like 5% overall. Whenever you take into account double opportunities, but you still had so much people picking before you, and they took so many receivers, and they were like, "Nah, Pickens isn't it."
So wait, that's from I know it's only last year or whatever. We got Kenny Pickett, right? Then we got George Pickett next, didn't we? Right? 1, 2.
Yeah, that was insane. Both of them fell way too far. Pickett should have been going at pick 5 to 10. Worst case, in my opinion, like for the skill he displayed. Now, I did suspect he could fall farther, but if we're objectively viewing skill, I was like, he has the skill to go right away.
Why is that though? Why did Kenny Pickett fall so far? And even like I said with the title here, did the NFL forget about Kenny Pickett? Why did he fall so far to 20?
I think that's behind the scenes deal. Like, I think we wanted to get Pickett. I think that's why they did it. I think that's why. I don't know. I think the draft is staged like WWE.
I don't think that. I think because the narrative going into that draft was every quarterback sucks. There's no point in getting next year's quarterback, or there's no point in getting this year's quarterback because we could get this stud in next year's draft. And what I always I immediately dismiss that just because every year they're always like, yeah, but if you wait till next year, you get the good quarterback. And I'm like, bro, every year you keep saying that. Like, think about that, because that's the thing with Pickett. Everyone was like, no, don't even go for Pickett. You should get Bryce Young. He's so good. He's so much better. The other quarterbacks are so much better. But then by the time this draft came around, now everyone's like, no, pass on Bryce Young. Get Caleb Williams next year. It
keeps going on and on.
Yeah.
Right?
This happens. This has happened perpetually. It's just people heard the narrative that this year's draft was too bad, and then the fact that the number one quarterback was coming from not a good football school, they were just like, pass on this. The number one quarterback shouldn't be coming from the ACC, blah, blah, blah.
But even to build on Gene's point, it could be staged, could not be, I don't know. But the one thing I say that it wouldn't be staged is, wasn't there a few times that Minnesota Vikings didn't even do a pick? There was one year I think they didn't even put their pick in for 9 minutes. But I think I've been down the realm a few times that the NFL is like, entertainment. And I actually kind of like it because I like how it keeps myself entertained and, like focus on the screen and that kind of stuff. But I think with the NFL stuff also, I do feel like they've forgotten about Kenny Pickett. Like okay, he went in there, the Jets game halftime, should have probably started from the very beginning. Then he goes through that and he has a really good season near the end. He goes, 7 or 9 TDs. He rushes 3. No one really seems to care too much about Pickett right now. But talking to you blokes now, that the fact that Kenny Pickett had a good college, shouldn't the college winning ways translate to the NFL? I'll start with you, Gene. Don't you think that?
What I think is, anyone that wins a championship should be considered as a number round possibility. Right. Not necessarily a number round pick, but a number 1 possibility.
But shouldn't those traits like translate into
could I interject real quick?
Player? Yeah.
So whenever Gene brings up winning a championship, it's like I really agree with that because I'm like, take that Pitt team and put them in like the overall NCAA playoffs. They're probably winning a lot of they're probably going to the championship of the entire college arena. It's just that they weren't invited because the way the NCAA works is it doesn't matter if you go undefeated in like a smaller conference. If you're a good team in the top conference who loses 2 games, they'll pick you over you because you get picked. So Pitt wasn't invited. I think if you take Kenny and he's invited to those championships, he'll go off, win the whole thing, and be the first pick in the first draft. That's just how that works.
Isn't there only 4? There's like 4 teams picked for the semifinals, and they're trying to expand it, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. But they won't pick teams from small conferences or from conferences where that aren't as strong. They'll mainly pick like Alabama, LSU every time, and then
it's based on strength of schedule, Mark, and it's so weird. So. And then they've always been talking about this in college football, is about how to rearrange the divisions properly to make the strengths equal. Okay. But it's based on championships, and then that's based on the players that you can bring into your school, which again is recruiting. And this
is the point that I'm like, I want to try and jump in on, because I think that, okay, you're not going to give Kenny recognition because he didn't win the big championship. However, how does he know that when he's 17 years old, going to Pittsburgh just to go to college and play football and also be a part of that? They don't know that he's going to be a fantastic quarterback when he gets that far. And then, of course, he's probably not going to go to another school to get, maybe some quarterbacks do. They go to another quarterback college to get the recognition. So
Joe Burrow did that. Joe Burrow did that. He was at Ohio State and he was benched. By actually, funny fact, so you know how we mentioned T-Law and the Jaguars? It was Urban Meyer. He was coaching Ohio State under Joe Burrow, and he told him he'd never be a starting quarterback and that he was trash. And so Joe Burrow transferred to LSU, and that's where Joe Burrow made his name late in his career.
Right. So those quarterbacks can transfer to big colleges to get the name behind that, to get higher pick. Would that make sense?
Yeah,
but Kenny didn't do that. Kenny was like, "No, I'm staying with Pittsburgh," and he won the championship. So therefore, the media or the college guys go, "Oh, he only won that one," but that's where he was to be. He was just meant to be there. That was his school, right?
Yeah, the NFL puts too heavy weights on, I think, the divisions. Like think about Aaron Donald came from Pitt.
Yeah,
Aaron Donald is a monster. Yeah. And then Kalijah Cansey this year, he came from Pitt. It's like there's good players that can come from anywhere. I think you shouldn't measure where they what division they played in too heavily. Like you do gotta measure a little bit because if you're like 6'7", you're playing a division where it's so obscure that everyone's under 5 foot. Like you're gonna be a monster. But you should people weigh it unreasonably in the NFL. They put too much weight on it. They should put less weight.
Yeah, it seems like he gets penalized for playing for a smaller school, but still winning the championship and still getting 42 touchdowns in his last year, 2 years ago. So I think the NFL has forgotten about Kenny Pickett, but like you do say, KP8 and Yuly down the bottom, or the real KP8 right here. You're right. They're starting to slowly talk about Kenny Pickett again, I think, with this upcoming season, right? We'll do one more question, then we're going to end this podcast. It's been fantastic, by the way. Fantastic. So many gems, so many good hot takes right now. Love it. What is one thing, Gene, that Kenny Pickett will do to surprise the NFL? When's the surprise moment of the NFL sits back and goes, oh, that's a guy. That's a guy that we've got to start to follow.
I think he comes out and he hoses San Francisco.
Yeah, it beats him. This comes out and this
I
goes
think he
off.
just comes out and beats him. Just be like, I read your tape all off season. I know every play.
Are we talking like 3 TDs, 200 yards, 300
Yeah,
yards?
I think they blow out San Francisco game 1. Not blow out. You know
Yes,
how
but
we
like-
were
Yes.
running the predictions and
You know,
they were like
a
29-0
blowout-
versus.
Yes. A blowout
It's
would
not gonna be
probably
that.
like 31-17 would be a good score for us.
That's what I think. I think it's going to be somewhere in there. I'd call it like 27-13 or something like that, where we just control the clock and Kenny Pickett he owns the game.
Just plays. Yep.
Yep.
I agree. What is I'll give you a different variation of the question, Kenny Pickett down the bottom. What is something next year we'll be saying about KP8 that you've been saying all along and people will go, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people say he has potential to be a franchise QB. I think he has potential to be elite, like Big Ben was. So I think you could be talking about him on the verge. I don't think maybe next year. I'm not like super high on actually expect him to produce right away because like Burrow is the most compared person to him. Burrow didn't do good the first half of his second season. I think as the season goes on, he'll be way better. But I don't expect him. Like I'm not going to be disappointed if he doesn't like slam 4 touchdowns in the first game. But all I care about is getting the win if possible there. So I think by the end of the season, people will not be saying, I think he can be a top franchise, or I think he can be a franchise quarterback. I think they'll be saying, I think he can be a elite quarterback.
Yeah, and then right now they're not even saying, or some people are, but really the narrative right now is that Brock Purdy's better. The new three quarterbacks that were drafted this year, they'll have better careers. They've ranked him, I think, around 24th, Kenny Pickett. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about Steelers. Anyways, guys, that's been fantastic.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you can.
So compare Kenny Pickett with Jordan Addison versus Caleb Williams with Jordan Addison, who Caleb Williams is considered to be on the level of Patrick Mahomes in college already. Like people are like coming out of college, he should be Patrick Mahomes. So let's think about that. Jordan Addison played for Pitt. Then after Kenny left, he transferred to Caleb Williams in USC. Jordan Addison did nowhere near as good in the terms of overall stats with Caleb Williams over Kenny Pickett.
You blokes both feel like he's got that winning mentality. For Kenny Pickett has that, I think early in his career. Gene, you think?
I do. Absolutely. 110%. I think he's bringing that team together more than Canada, more than Tomlin. Like, I think him and Cam are kind of the glue. Him and Minka are the glue.
Yeah, Cam's leadership is so important.
Yeah. I think that's the glue.
Cam and Kenny have a pretty good relationship too. Together.
Yeah, they're locker mates.
Yeah, so there's a little few things here that are giving me chills on my back, thinking this team can be maybe kind of good again. I think and it's something to start to watch and this season and like you said before, Yuly or KP8 down the bottom down there. Next year's going to be exciting, right? We're going to have fun this season, but
this season will be solid. I think next season will be scary.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. What did you just say then? This season will be solid. Next year will be scary. That's a tagline.
Yeah. We're dogs.
Dogs in the hunt.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Kenny Pickett. Thank you, guys from Steeler Nation Australia. That was awesome. That was a cool little podcast for about 24 minutes. That was fantastic. We'll see you guys later. As always, here we go, Steelers. Here we go.